think I might have bought 5 or 6 of my own pregnancy tests to take them home and take them because I just could not believe it. How in the world am I pregnant on 2 forms of birth control? But it was in fact true. I was pregnant again. I had Justin, who was 10 months old, and I had Gavin, who's not even 2, and now I'm gonna have this other baby. I'm just like, what in the world? And my husband is a truck driver, and so he wasn't home very often. And I already had Gavin and Justin. I'm just like, oh my gosh, 3 babies. I don't even know. I just don't even know if I'm going to be able to handle this. Fortunately, my pregnancy with Macy, it went very well for me as far as morning sickness. I got lucky and I was sick all through the night. So the boys were sleeping while I felt terrible puking. So that was a blessing. I was really tired, but I didn't have to have the blood transfusions and things like I had in the past. And pregnancy was pretty much, uneventful until the very end. And I started feeling bad. I started feeling really bad. I just didn't feel quite myself, really having terrible headaches, and I started swelling up really bad. And I knew from my first pregnancy that this could be, toxemia or preeclampsia, because I had it before. So I called my doctor, and it was my husband's birthday. We had people coming over to eat a birthday dinner, and my doctor said, well, I need you to just come in. Let me just check you out, make sure everything's okay, and I'll let you go home. So I drove myself into the doctor's office, or to the hospital actually. He said meet me at the ER, which I should have known. That should have been my first clue that something wasn't right. But I drove myself in, had left Bart at home with all 6 of the other kids. My doctor came in and took my blood pressure and did a few tests and said, you're extremely toxic and we're delivering the baby by emergency C-section within an hour. And I am at the hospital alone with nobody. I call Bart freaking out. I'm like, they are about to do a C-section on me. I'm here alone. You have to get here. We live 45 minutes from the hospital. It was very traumatic. I laid there on the gurney and just cried. I was scared I was having a C-section. I was terrified that I was alone. And God just really met me, because some family members happened to be driving through the town, and it had gotten through the grapevine. And so a family member stopped at the hospital. She was on her way out of town, and she was actually going to go in the operating room with me, so I did not have to have a C-section alone. And they were getting ready to take me back, and Bart arrived, and it was just the most wonderful thing. And they said, well, who's going back with you? I was like, my husband. He says, are you sure? I'm like, yes, I'm sure. You are going with me. So we went in. We went in for the C-section, and apparently it was a very difficult one. I didn't know what was going on. I just could see the look on the doctor's face. It just wasn't good. I felt all kind of stuff. It wasn't pain, but it was immense pressure, just all in my abdominal cavity. Anyways, the baby was finally born. He finally got her out, and tiny and beautiful, and only got to see her for maybe a minute or 2, and they went ahead and put me under to tie my tube finally, and closed me up. But I don't really remember the first 24 hours after that. Apparently I was much more toxic than what they thought. They had me on several medications, and I was just out of it, really. I do remember someone coming to the hospital and saying, she looks terrible, I don't like this, I don't like the way she looks, but that's pretty much all I remember. The next day, I was good in a way, and I thought, well, okay, day and a half after my C-section, I'm just gonna get up, like I've seen on all the shows, the pregnancy shows, you have the C-section, and then you're in the wheelchair going to see your baby, and that just was not the case. I could not move. I was in so much pain that I could hardly even handle the pain. It was just terrible. It was awful. I thought, I'm once again a failure, because here my baby is, in her second day of life, and I haven't even held her. And I can't stand to hold her because it hurts so bad. But the doctor came in and talked to us. Actually, my C-section, and this did make me feel better. It was not a normal C-section. What had happened is, apparently she got stuck up under my ribs, and so he had to do a lot more cutting and digging and pulling, and he said out of all the deliveries, she was top 3 hardest to get out. So that did make me feel a little bit better, knowing that this was not a normal C-section, and yes, I was in a lot of pain, and I had a reason to be. So I think by that they changed medications and stuff, and by that evening I was feeling much better. I was actually able to hold Macy some. I obviously could not nurse her. I was pumping and dumping because of the medication I was on. But she was just so precious, so beautiful. But I knew that she had Peter's anomaly when I saw her eyes. Now, the doctors told us that we had a better chance of winning the lottery than ever having a child with Peter's anomaly again. It's just so rare. And for, a parent or parents to have 2 children, we would win the lottery before, that would ever happen. I should have bought a lottery ticket, but I didn't. But I did have my beautiful Macy, and I knew immediately. I did not have the freak out like I had with Justin. I felt like something inside me might have already known that Macy had an eye issue. I remained relatively calm, actually, and it could have been because I was in just a state of shock. When I think back, a lot of it is a blur. Of course, I took Macy immediately to Justin's doctor, who confirmed that yes, in fact, it was Peter's anomaly. We had the initial exam under anesthesia, and this time he told me that Macy was clinically blind. She might be able to tell some shadow vision. She would definitely be able to have differential between light and dark, which is extremely important for your internal time clock. So he was trying to just put out the good points there for us, So where I had Justin, who, met his milestones, and the therapists and doctors would always say, he just breaks the mold for visually impaired, and now I have this baby that is blind, basically, is what they're telling me. She's blind. I did not cope very well with that. I did not handle it emotionally, physically, mentally, or spiritually. I went into a very deep depression. I had to function. I had to get out of bed every day. I had these babies to take care of. I had appointments, doctor's appointments, therapy appointments, not to mention, therapy every day that you do at home with the babies. And I couldn't lay in bed and cry all the time, because if I could have, I would have. That's how I felt. It was just, it was hard. It was very, very, very hard, with Macy, there was no chance really of any type of corrective lenses. They said she wasn't even born with lenses in her eyes. She was much worse than Justin. But they offered us a cornea transplant, and that would be her only, hope to have some vision in the one eye. She did have light and dark differential in the other eye, so we were gonna do it, let's give her a chance to have some vision. And waiting for a transplant was extremely stressful in itself. You have to have a good donor, and you're kind of like on call. And we went the first time they called us then, and we got all the way 4 hours away, prepared for this cornea transplant surgery, and it didn't happen. We got there, and the doctor said the corneas just are not good enough. So we went back to the waiting game. I believe it was the following week. We got the call to come back, and I was so excited because when the doctor talked to us, she said that it was the perfect donor. And then she told me that it was an 18-year-old boy. And my heart broke. My heart broke for that mama that had lost her baby. But my heart was also so overjoyed because this mom was donating her son's organs so that my child might have a chance for vision. It's an extremely emotional state to be in, where you're so joyful on the one hand, but so sad on the other. It seemed like I spent a lot of time like that, riding the fence of happiness and sadness. We had the transplant done. Everything went great. I immediately noticed some improvement in Macy. It was definite that she was seeing some things now. Something would put her close to her face, and it was just such happiness, because now, she's gonna have some vision. This is wonderful, and this is great, and everything's gonna be okay. It's gonna be just like Justin, and we're gonna get through this. And about a month after her transplant, we went twice a week, but this happened to be a month later. All of a sudden, the doctor told me, "I'm very sorry, but she's rejecting the cornea." Now, when you have children with the vision problems, I was doing about 16 eye drops a day because of the cornea transplant. Anti-rejection drops, steroids, all kinds of stuff. And to do these eye drops, it was taxing on me, because I would have to wrap her up, as tight as I could in a blanket, and put my knees next to her shoulders, hold her eye open, and get these drops in. It was difficult. And I thought, I don't know if I can do this, but it means if she has vision, I can do these drops. I can make myself do this, because they hurt her too. The eye drops burned, and she would cry, and it was rough. So at that appointment, when she told us, "I'm sorry, but she's rejecting the cornea," we can go in and try to do some actual steroid injections into the eye itself and see if maybe we can delay the process of rejection. So we chose that, and that was horrible. For all you moms out there, when your baby cries and that it's a certain distinct sound, but it was 10 times worse than that. This was a shrill, terrible sound, and I thought, what have I done? What have I done to my baby? You know? Fortunately, it took hours, but they did end up getting the pain under control, and it was still very, traumatic because I chose this. I chose to have the shots put in her eyes, and I felt super guilty about that, even though I knew that I was doing the right thing. These decisions that you have to make when you have a child with special needs, they're hard. They're hard because you have to put your mom's feelings aside and that emotional side of you aside and kind of think with your head. And it's hard. It's just hard.